Hi guys, welcome back to another new vlog. Thank you for joining me once again. Today I'm having a walk at Kinver Edge again. I've been here a few times before, but on the previous occasions that I've been here, it's been during the autumn where the colours have been really popping, and the scenery's been beautiful. But I've never been here during the spring, and so I wanted to come back and see what difference it makes at this time of year. But I am finding it a little bit difficult at the moment. There's a section of the walk that I started. I'm kind of doing my previous walk in reverse, and there's a section of walk that I started which was a lot steeper and a lot more hilly than I'd expected. So I've already found it a little bit difficult getting this far, but I've passed Nanny's Rock and there were a lot of Chinese tourists in there having the photos taken, so I didn't want to stop and do any filming. But for now I'm going to start walking and see if I can find my first composition of the day. So that was the first composition then, guys. R6 Mark III, 24 to 105mm lens at 50mm, f11, ISO 100 and 1/30th of a second. I think it works perfectly. I could of course try to bracket those shots because of the light coming through the trees and so on, but I didn't feel that I needed to. I can probably touch that up in post-production anyway and see how that works out. So I think that's quite a good one. It's one of those where I kind of look at it and think I can work with that. It won't be a world beater, but it's one I liked anyway. So yeah, that's the first composition. By the way, I hope you like that light poking through the trees. The Japanese have a word called Komorebi, which essentially means light coming through the trees during a springtime morning, and creating these beautiful dappled light effects within the woodland. Komorebi, that's the word the Japanese use. So I'm going to move on and see if I can find my next composition then. I've just walked up a very steep path through this bit of woodland, so excuse me panting a bit for breath, but I've walked down this path previously. To be honest, I'm quite glad that I've got to the top of it, because from here there's not very much more climbing, but also then the rest of it is virtually all downhill, so I'm quite happy about getting this far. But looking back down into this woodland, there's a beautiful composition which uses the path that I've walked up, and it's got trees growing either side of it, beautiful green leaves all over the trees. So I think I'm going to stop here, get myself a drink, but also then take a shot of this path leading down the hill. I've noticed it a few times before. Like I said, I've walked down it before, so I've always thought that maybe there's a composition there. So I'm stopping now to take this. It is quite dark and gloomy because the trees are so high and there's so many leaves on them. It's all very green, but I think it's going to make a really lovely composition anyway. So I'll take this shot and then I'll move on. That was another one of them compositions where just as I'm about to take the shot, everybody suddenly appears from nowhere. So I had to wait a few minutes to get that one, but I managed to get it anyway, and I quite like the look of it. Like I said, it's very green and very dark, but it's typical spring woodland conditions, to be honest with you. I'm still at the edge of the same woodland. In actual fact, the very first shot I took earlier today was at the other side of this woodland, and obviously I've walked around the edge of it, gone down the slope to the bottom of the woodland, along the edge of the woodland, and then back up the slope that I've just come up to this edge of the woodland, and in a little while I'll come out of this bit of woodland. It's quite flat at the minute for the time being, but I'll come out of this woodland and I think there's a little bit more climbing, and then from there it's all downhill pretty much. But I know there's going to be a few more compositions as well. That second shot, by the way, it's another 24 to 105mm, and this time I think it was about 45mm. But the best thing about that particular area of woodland there, that path, for some reason there's never a breath of wind in there, not a drop. And it's quite interesting because you can go there at any time of the year, and it'd be blowing a gale everywhere else, and you walk into that little stretch of path and there's no breeze at all. But the good thing about that was I'm able to lengthen out my shutter speed a little bit, so it's still f11 and 1/8 of a second, I believe. Yeah, something like that, an 1/8 or a 15th of a second. ISO 100, and like I said, f11. Great shot, really enjoyed it. But now I'm getting to a point where when I come out of this woodland, as I'm doing now, I'll turn right and walk along the path where I've previously seen horses on 2 occasions in exactly the same spot, exactly the same horses with exactly the same riders on them at pretty much exactly the same time of day. So there's every chance I'm going to see them horses again today, but coming from the opposite direction. So I've just passed the infamous horse spot and didn't see any horses today. Can't think why. Maybe I'm just a little bit later, having coming round the other way. But the other thing is, I have seen hoof prints everywhere and other evidence that there might be horses around. So they are about here somewhere, but I just haven't seen them yet. I'm going to keep moving. Haven't really spotted anything that I really want to shoot again since I last spoke to you, but I know that there are a couple of compositions further along here, along this path, as we get closer to the hill fort. So I'll probably capture them again in the spring, and then we'll head on home. This gate just behind me has always been one that I've really enjoyed photographing. It looks great in the autumn when it's all wet and mossy and green. Doesn't look so good now in this light in the spring. It's a nice little spot, and I'm glad I've got to this point, because now I'm almost on the last sort of home straight of the walk that I was going to do. I'm almost back down to the car park at the start of the walk where I started earlier today, so that's a good thing. And I think there's just one more composition after this. I mentioned the hill fort earlier on. There used to be a hill fort here, there isn't one now, but I'm coming up to the site of that hill fort now, and it is just an area of pretty flat land where you can see there would have been something built on it, but there's no sign of anything there now. But just round the corner from that, there's an old war memorial I want to take a look at, and I think that might be an interesting shot to take. So I'm going to head there and take that shot, and then I'm going to head back to Kinver. Guys, I am very much nearing the end of my walk now. The war memorial was a bit of a dud, to be honest. Just a concrete pillar that had been built up with metal gates around it, metal fences. You couldn't get anywhere near it really. The composition was no good because there's nothing else to anchor the composition other than the war memorial itself. But also there's a picnic area just in front, and there were people sat around right next to where the war memorial was, so I couldn't really get close enough to get a decent composition anyway, even if I thought there'd been one there. So I missed that one, missed that opportunity, unfortunately. But now I'm heading back into the village of Kinver, which is only about 15 minutes walk away, and I'm going to get my lunch there. It's got quite warm, so I might even sit outside the pub to have my lunch. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the vlog, then please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.